Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good day and welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here on this Monday, the 17th of June, 2024. Thank you for tuning in. Things are not looking good in the world, especially on the war situation. Loggerheads is the way I would put it. They're at loggerheads. In other words, they're not really getting anywhere with negotiating or anything like that. And they got irreconcilable differences. Both sides. NATO side and the BRICS side. Taking a look at Italy here. The Italy Prime Minister is hard on the side of Ukraine. Very much for the side of Ukraine, I should say. Putin's peace terms were slammed as the Ukraine summit began. The Italian Prime Minister describes Putin's ceasefire offers for Ukraine. I guess it's a no-go. So they've talked to a number of people in Russia, and I guess they've done polls and stuff, and I think what they said was 60% of the Russian people say that World War III is inevitable, or nuclear war is inevitable. Maybe they're getting a little bit different information than we're getting over here about the whole thing, because I think that most people you're going to find out there right now don't know anything's going on. They just think, oh yeah, I know there's a war in Ukraine, but there's been a war in Ukraine for years now, and they're not paying any attention whatsoever. Italian Premier Meloni describes Putin's ceasefire off of Ukraine as propaganda. But I also found an article last night where they're saying about how they want to punish Russia or whatever. It's... And China's almost ready for its war with the West in this article right here. It says Chinese fighter jets on Chinese aircraft carrier. There's a picture of them ready to go, It says, while Russian forces continue to thrust toward Kharkiv over the weekend, world leaders descended on the Swiss resort of Burdenstock in attempts to work out a peace deal. Vladimir Putin predictably had no interest in attending, but the absence of other world leaders was more significant, even as the United States gears up its pivots its military attention to the Indo-Pacific. Now, here's the thing, guys. I was thinking about this morning. In fact, I went on GDP or whatever it's called, right? Asked some questions. And what my questions were relative about was cars and their computer systems. You guys buy a new car? Or are you driving a very late model car? Maybe it's still under warranty? You never guess how many computer chips and modules are inside the newer cars. Now, last winter I got myself another car. I tried to get as old a car as I could that wasn't rusty. I did some real searching to find it. I wanted something old as I could get. And there's a reason why, is when you get back to around, say, the year 2008 car, which is now an old car, mine's a 2009, and you get back into an older car like that, what you're getting into is, yes, they do have computer chips. I think they started putting them in around the year 2000 in the car. So you'd have to go way back into a 1987 or something. Even then they had computer chips. You'd have to get all the way back to like 1970s, I think, before you get out of the computer chips completely. But it's a difference. There's a difference. One is the amount of computer chips those older cars have in them. The further back you go, the less computer chips they have. And the second thing is the complexity of the computer chips. They mass produce these older computer chips way back when, the old Silicon Valley computer chips, the old ones that were much more simple and less complex. They're much easier to make. Almost any country can make those now at this point. Open a factory and start building them. They're much less complex than the computer chips that are new and made in Taiwan. The world's best computer chips are made in Taiwan right now. Let's see, I had an article on here about this. See if I can find it. It says, to date, Taiwan alone accounts for 65% of the world's semiconductor manufactured market share. So they're making 65% of the world's semiconductors, but what they're not telling you there, and what doesn't say there, is the best semiconductors and chips are being made in Taiwan. That 65% represents the best. The less complicated chips are made elsewhere. Taiwan makes the really good ones, the fast ones. If you got a phone, they got like a little Snapdragon chip inside it. Taiwan, look to Taiwan. In your cars, say you got a car newer than, say, 2019 or newer, right? How many chips do you think is in those newer cars? Now, moving back to my old 2009, it's got a couple computer chips inside the transmission control module, and it's got a couple computer chips inside the engine control module. So it's got like 2 modules, and there's probably a dozen chips inside. Maybe, I don't know, I'm just having to guess, maybe a half a dozen in each module. So we're talking probably about 12 chips. And we're talking the older generation chips that are easy to manufacture and can be had almost anywhere. But now you move up to a car, you move up 10 years newer, or newer even, into 2020 car or 2022 car. What do you got? You got a dozen chips in it? No, I'm sorry. Guess how many? 1,500 chips. And they're the newer, more complex chips. They're not these old chips that were easy to manufacture anywhere. No, these are the newer, highly high-powered chips that come from Taiwan. So where am I going with all this, guys? Your car might be under warranty. Has to go into the dealer. Oh, no problem, we replace the chip. Now you got your car back and it's working again. Let's go back to this article right here. And this is where I'm going with all this. This article right here. China's almost ready for its war with the West. What do you think that war is going to be? They're aiming at Taiwan, the chip manufacturing place. Now say the war starts in the Pacific. And Taiwan's under attack. Do you think there's going to be any shipments of chips? So, picture a day coming in the future where your car stops working. It just needs a little chip. It needs say it's in the engine control module. You need a new chip. You got a new car, and oh, you're so proud of your new car and everything, But you take it into the dealer, and they say, oh, we're at war with China. We're at war in Taiwan, and there's no chips. And when can you get the chip? Because my car won't run at the dealer. And don't you know my car's under warranty? You have to put this chip in. And they say, well, yes, we know that, but we cannot get this chip. So sue us. We can't get it. Sorry, but you can jump and yell and pull your hair out of your head. And I know you can't drive to work because your car doesn't work, but it's going to be 6 months to a year before we can get your chip, and we're not even sure if we can get it then. So what do? You have to have your car towed home, and you sit it in your driveway. It ain't going nowhere. It's a 4,000 pound block of metal because it's missing one chip. This is the world we've created for ourselves. We used to have these cars out there that could be fixed with a screwdriver and a paper clip. Right? Now what do we got? Garbage world. And these jets and things like that are all the same. They're in the same boat. The older jets, like I think they're the F-18s and stuff like that, F-16s and stuff like that, I don't think they had near as many chips. Same thing. It's the same damn thing. But these new monstrosities are out there. You know, I mean, if they get a computer bug or whatever, they're not going to get off the runway. What kind of a world are we creating for ourselves? A world where nothing works. So, moving on here, I mean, I could rail against this till cows come home, but I mean, now, as far as the nuclear war is concerned, it says, well, NATO, I guess, is going on a higher state of readiness right now, or standby or whatever, as far as nuclear war is concerned. Russia's already done that a few weeks ago. They locked and loaded. You know, they're ready to go. Let's look at a few of these articles. It says NATO's nuclear deterrence policy enforces Poland. We're ready to host nuclear weapons. Putin warns the West. Russia is ready for nuclear war. Putin told the West on Wednesday that Russia's technically ready. Polish president wants NATO nukes to deter Russia. They want to put nukes. Putin warns against Russia and is ready to use nuclear weapons if its sovereignty is threatened. Poland ready to host nuclear weapons, President Andrzej Duda says. Destabilizing and dangerous. Russian media blasts NATO's nuclear weapons policy. It just goes on and on. People are ignoring it all out there, and they're just totally unaware of what's going on. Honest to God. Well, let's just sit and think for a minute, you know? What's going through some of these leaders' heads, you know? What are they thinking? Like, if you were to take Biden, for instance, you know? All the stuff that you're totally aware of. You see him missing steps when he's getting up into an airplane and stumbling around. He's aware of all that. He knows about it. You know? And how would... I mean, let's face it, older people. All of us are going through what's called an aging process. Myself included, all of you out there in my audience, you're all aging. And as you age, your brain ages. Everything ages. It doesn't work as well as when you're in your 20s. And you're in your 30s, it doesn't work as well as when you're in your 20s. When you're in your 40s, it works even worse. 50s, that's gone for Biden. 60s, gone for Biden. 70s, gone for Biden. Now he's up into his 80s. He's fully aware of the situation for himself. You know? How much does he really care about you guys? And what happens to you? He knows what's going on. You know? And he also knows they probably got an ice cream machine down in the bunker. You know? I mean, what's this world coming to, for crying out loud? Now let's take a look at Putin. Putin is getting old too. And he wants to establish he wants to do something that's going to glorify Russia and make a name for himself in history, in the history books. He would like to, of course, he'd like to have the glory of the former Soviet Union and spread out through all of the territories and have Russia be glorious. And of course, that's what he would want. Glorious and victorious. You know? And how does he look at life? I mean, you got people that are in power, you know, and maybe Donald Trump's not in power anymore, but how does Donald Trump perceive the world? You got to think. We only think about how we perceive the world. Our perception from our own vantage point. We don't see the world through their eyes, through the world's leaders' eyes, but they're the guys who are in charge. And we should sit back and we should analyze it and say, what's going through their minds? What are they thinking about? What's the situation for them, first off, can give you a clue. Think about their situation that they're in. their particular situation, and that can give you some insight into what's going through their mind and how they care about things. Do they care if there's a nuclear war, if they've got a bunker that they can go down into and keep living their life like it is now, or something similar? Do they care about nuclear war as much as you do? If you were to have everything blown to pieces in your entire life, yeah, you're going to care more than them because they're more isolated from it. And what if they're going through personal problems with their health or their mental cognitive ability or other things like that? How's that going to affect how it reflects how they see the world? Because they're in charge. They're driving the boat. And, you know, if you got a guy who's driving the boat and he's suicidal, right? And he's behind the wheel, you know, and headed toward the rocks, maybe he don't care. You ever thought of that? Where you're on board and you're in the back and you're like, I don't want to die, you know? But you're not controlling the steering wheel of the boat. Think about that for a minute. Now, silver today. Silver's down 15 cents. Here's another thing, guys. Think about this for a minute. Say the whole world erupts into this craziness. Well, it's going to reveal that the United States dollar's worthless because they're going to have to spend all that money to keep the war machine going. They're going to have to spend all that money to keep the banks from going under. And I think like half of the banks in the United States are ready to go under right now. And what do you think that's going to do to the dollar? You think you're going to be trading dollars? People are going to say, oh, I don't want them. It's hyperinflating. I don't want to be paid in dollars. Oh, well, I'll pay you in Bitcoin. Well, the internet hasn't worked for the last 2 weeks. I can't use Bitcoin. What in the heck is that? How are you even going to transfer that to me? The internet. It's war now. We're over here suffering. We haven't had power for the last 2 weeks and don't know when it's going to come back on. Oh, I'll pay in dollars. Well, I don't want them. They're hyperinflating. I don't even know what they're worth today. I have to turn the internet on to find out what they're worth today. I know last week they were worth, a dollar was lost 50% of its value last week, and I think it's faster. I'm not taking that stuff. Sorry, no, they can't pay me in dollars. Well, what can I pay you in? You got any silver? Yeah. You got any silver? I'll take that. Yeah. Everybody's taking it now. That and gold. You know, for that bag of rice over there, I'll sell it to you for 1 silver coin or 1 gold coin. Doesn't matter which you got. Well, the guy says, I haven't got either. I didn't think all this stuff was actually going to happen. Look. Picture it this way, guys. Picture you're a nice lady and you travel to some foreign country. I don't care where on earth you travel there, and you got a thick, heavy gold chain around your neck, and you go through border security with it because it's jewelry. They let you through. Nice, big, thick, heavy gold chain around your neck. You got all your papers, you got all your passports, you got all your money, and you've got your wallet, and you've got a whole stack of credit cards in there, and you feel pretty safe. So you travel to your motel in some foreign country. You're a nice lady. And you check into your motel, and then you decide to go out and get something to eat, and you leave your wallet or your purse back at the motel. You come back, and it's gone. Your passport's gone. All of your papers are gone. All of your credit cards are gone. All of your money is gone. Your cash is gone, and everything else. But you had your gold chain around your neck, right? So you go to the consulate there because you've lost in that country, you go to the consulate, the United States consulate, because you've lost all of your papers and everything else, and you apply to get your passport back. And they say, okay, it's going to take 2 weeks for us to get it to you. But you got to stay here in this country for the next 2 weeks. Do you have travel insurance? And you say, no, I didn't buy travel insurance. And they say, oh, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. So you go back to your hotel, which has all been paid for on the credit card in advance. So at least you got your motel room, but you got no way of buying food and stuff like that what lasts the next 2 weeks. So you take that gold chain, you rip it apart into pieces, and you take the pieces into a pawn store, and they give you the money of that country for it. That system's already in place worldwide. All across America, you see "We Buy Gold" signs and pawn stores and everything. Everybody will buy it. Anyway, doesn't matter what country you go to, that system's already in place. Now, when the fiat currencies become toast because countries are all fighting and there's chaos everywhere and the internet's going down, you're not going to be able to use Bitcoin either. What do you think it's going to go to? I mean, this is a no-brainer, guys. But what's happening? The price is dropping on the stuff. And it's already... I mean, what else out there? It costs $20 to get one of these pieces of silver. By the time the miners pay for everything, all inclusive, including getting it into that coin form and getting to the dealer and you buy it. Okay, there's about $20 there. Cost. So there's only $9 profit. Everything else you're buying, they double their profit. You go to the hardware store, you want to buy some screws, right? You're going to find that the hardware store makes like, if the screws cost $10, it only costs them $5. And the distributors have an even lower cost, $2.50. So what's the real cost of those screws? $2.50. And what are they selling you to you for? $10. That means most all of it's profit. But with this stuff, it's still got a tiny profit margin. You got to think about things like that. See, what value are you getting for your money? It's really great. It's really great. And it's going to be, this is going to be generational wealth. Silver and gold. Generational wealth. That's what's coming. And it's not that far out because we're going into these situations, you know. And I never even touched on the bird flu this morning. The one thing out there that maybe could stop the war if it's really bad. But what a way to try to stop it. You know, the whole world catches bird flu and 25% of the population drops dead from it. I mean, and that stops the war. Yeah, but what about the other people, another, say, 25% more of the people whose lungs are fried and they need medical care? And then what about if you got 50% of the people that are totally incapacitated, what happens to the rest of the system? Well, everything else shuts down. And then the 50% of the people that are left over, they have to try to survive in a world where there's no just-in-time delivery and the power's down and everything else because there's some giant flu come along and culled the population down. You know, I mean, a disease X. You know, you guys all remember how hard it was to survive through COVID, and COVID was more in the scale of a bad flu, like how many people died from COVID. I mean, going back to like I think it was 1968, and we're talking about the Spanish influenza. It was more in the order of what COVID was in. Millions died in that. Millions died in COVID, but not billions. You get something that's got a 25%, its virility is up there like 25%, and it could kill billions. Not millions, measured in billions. That would shut everything the heck down. I mean, shut it down to where, like, you remember the lockdowns? Well, they kept essential services running. You wouldn't have essential services anymore. The supermarket wouldn't be open. Nothing. And then how many people are gonna how many lives would be lost from extenuating circumstances from the power being out for 6 months or a year or 5 years or whatever, and the whole system basically shutting down. The only people that survive are people who know how to live off the land and who can stay away from everybody else and keep everybody else away from them. I'm telling you, it's not a bright look for this world. I mean, right now. And then I didn't even get into the weather, which is going nuts. I mean, I'm on a bit of a tear this morning, but it has to be said. I mean, we're facing all of these problems right now. They're intensifying rapidly, and I can see just in the future, maybe a year or 2 years out, that they're all going to converge at the same time on us. You know? I just had a thought go through my head, it's like a rat that's on the floor, And maybe time moves different for those little animals. Maybe we're look like we're really moving slow or something. Because you ever see they can scurry away so fast, Like you just flinch and they're gone. Psst. So maybe time moves at a different frame for them. So imagine a rat that's on the floor and he's got a dozen cooks coming after him with steak knives, Well, they got him cornered, and they're all coming down. But in his mind, he can see the steak knives moving so slowly, so slowly. This is kind of like what this is. This is all these steak knives, all these different problems we got coming at us. No, they haven't stabbed us yet but all these problems are coming at us, and we can see them coming at us like in slow motion, and they're going to drop like a bunch of bombs on us at a specific time in the future. How far in the future? I don't know. Maybe 6 months from now, maybe a year from now, maybe a year and a half from now. Enjoy this time you got right now, but where we don't have to deal with these problems yet. They're all converging at a point. It's really strange. It's a convergence of all these problems. And I didn't even go into the financial system problems. Well, I touched on it a little bit. But I could see even one of these problems taking us the heck out because we're so vulnerable. Our society is so vulnerable. We've made ourselves that way. We've left off with all of the analog systems, and we put in all of this dependency systems that one thing depends upon something else. Even the farms, out there, they got the farm tractors and stuff like that. They're all dependent upon the system supporting them. They can't even plow the fields anymore, but that's not the way it used to be. Used to be the farmer had his horse in the barn, and he had his cast iron plow in the corner, and he didn't care if the internet switched off. He'd get out there and hitch up the horse and stand behind the plow and draw it across the field. And it was just analog. It was so simple. Nothing could stop it from functioning. Now we got all these dependencies. Oh, we're out of that blue stuff to put in the diesel fuel today. Oh no, we can't run the tractors because we haven't got the blue stuff. Well, who produces the blue stuff? It just goes on and on and on and on. And if that doesn't work, then those people over there aren't going to get their food because the farmer can't produce it. What about in America right now? What about the groundwater systems to supply a lot of water to these fields and stuff? They're running dry. And now some states are saying, okay, no more farming over there, no more irrigation. Yeah, you can farm, but, you can't irrigate any longer. Well, how the heck am I going to farm if I can't irrigate? This is the way it's going. Taking a look at Bitcoin today, 65,352. Ethereum 3509, and XRP's 51.8 cents. So at least that 50-cent coin got back up to 50 cents again. Dow Jones today, we're up $1.73 on the Dow Jones at 38,590. So Dow's not going much of anywhere today. That's not much of a move. Taking a look at our crude oil today, it's up $1.05. Now that's a big jump for crude. $79.50 is the price. Taking a look at bonds today, we're seeing yields on the treasuries rising. 7.4 basis points on the 10-year at 4.28. And the 30 years at 4.42, and it's risen 7.3 basis points. And finishing off with the U.S. dollar index, which is at 105.48. And falling just a little bit today. I could see when all these crises occurs, Well, the crises are going to occur regardless of what you do. You don't have any control over them. They're coming in like a storm, all these crises. But I can see after we get involved in these crises, what I'm talking about, silver and gold, is generational wealth. I could see that we could get to a point where silver goes back to what it used to be worth. Back before we went into this big industrial revolution and all this mining and being able to strip the earth of it so fast with these big machines. Back before that age, going back, there was a steady price for silver through history. And like they used to have what was called a Roman denarii, which was about the same amount of silver that's in a dime, what we call a dime now. In order to earn one of those, you had to do manual labor, hard manual labor. And I mean if you went back before the 1800s in history, you'll find that labor was just what it says, labor. It wasn't flipping burgers at McDonald's. You don't even break a sweat doing that. No, we're talking about things like digging a ditch with a pick and shovel, digging roots out of the ground, where the sweat pours off of your brow. So how long do you think you'd have to work at manual labor to earn one of those little 1 ounce, not 1 ounce, but 1/10 of an ounce coins? 12 hours of hard manual labor was required to earn a denarii, or a little tiny 1/10 of an ounce coin. So that means that 1 ounce coin that you got now could be 120 man hours to earn that 1 ounce coin. And that's what it'll go back to being worth when all these crises hit. If it starts to be used in trade, because there's nothing else to use in trade, because our system is not functioning any longer to support trade in the currencies we have now. In other words, you can't use your credit card any longer or anything like that, because everything's down more than it's up. Maybe the internet might come on 1 hour a day, or the power might come on 1 hour a month, and they'll tell you when it's going to come on. Everybody's cheering, and then it goes out again. You're out for weeks. How are you going to do trade? I mean, the dollar's hyperinflating. You don't even know what it's worth, and nobody wants to take it. And they're just printing it high, wide, and handsome to try to support war efforts or something like that. That's the kind of world we're heading into, is a world that's going to be really, really tough to live in. But silver and gold might be able to make it so that you can have a little bit better life than your friends in what's left of this stupid system that they've created. But there is a bright side to all this stuff I've been talking about. If you guys stick with me this long, I'll tell you what the bright side is. The bright side is that I believe that we're going through all of this because we are changing from our whole civilization, our whole earth, our whole planet is changing now. And it's moving towards something where we're going to be more technologically advanced civilization. And we're going through like a birth pain. And there's going to be a period in time, I don't know, maybe 10 years from now or something like that, where we've made all these changes and things really start to get good again. But the whole system's going to have to filter out all these impurities. Right now, basically what's happening is we're the toilet's being flushed. Now, how do you get rid of the stink in the toilet? Well, you flush it. But, that is an awful big change to the world. And so it's not going to get better until we get through this change. In fact, I think it's going to get an awful lot worse, because the old system has to dissolve for the new system to emerge. And going through that period in time, you're going to have to be smart to make it. And what does being smart mean? It means seeing what's coming in advance, preparing for it as best you can, and then when it happens, using your brain that God gave you rather than your brawn. Because if you try to force your way through this situation, you try to use your brawn, it's going to fail you. And I know there's an awful lot of people out there that go to the gym 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week. They're at Planet Fitness all the time. You know? And they think, oh, I'm prepared for anything. I can jog 30 miles. Yeah, well, that's probably not going to save you. Your brain will save you a heck of a lot quicker. They might be the first ones to go when the real trouble hits because they think they're omnipotent. Just like the leaders in the West think they're omnipotent. You know, and when the trouble really hits, then they're the first ones to go crying back to mama, you know. Anyway, listen, thank you guys for listening to my show. I know it was a little bit of a long one today. You guys have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.